So in this video, we're going to talk about OneDrive, the on-demand feature, and configuring multiple OneDrive Sync clients. Okay, so in this video, we're actually going to walk through the OneDrive OneDrive on-demand feature. Sorry about that. So with the OneDrive on-demand feature is critical because it allows you to store a ton of information inside of the cloud without having to bring all that information down to your local devices. So now if you're like me, you have multiple devices. You have your laptop, you have your tablet, you have your phone. So you have all these devices and you still want to stay connected. And now because the OneDrive can store up to 5 terabytes of data, default is 1 terabyte, there's still a lot of data to have to download locally in order to interact with it. So let's take a look. So what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to take one of my profiles. I'm going to show you the connection to OneDrive. I'm going to show you the new on-demand features, some sharing features, and actually some edge cases if you have to connect with multiple tenants. And I'll explain a little bit by that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. A little tongue-tied today. So if you're looking at my desktop here, I have my Office 365 tenant already logged in. I'm going to click on the OneDrive. Usually you have the icon available, or you can just type in OneDrive here. But I'm going to show you the long way. So if you go into your OneDrive and you click on Sync, you're going to get this pop up. So if you have OneDrive already installed, you can click here. But before we click that, what we want to do is ensure we get the latest and greatest. So I'm going to click on this message here in this dialog. It says get the latest version, and that's going to take me right to the download, and it will actually start downloading the latest OneDrive client. As we all know that things are changing and progressively very quickly here in the O365 world. So it's always a good idea to make sure you have the latest and greatest. And I think the OneDrive Sync client is one of those that sometimes do not automatically with the latest features automatically. So I'm going to download this. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And as soon as you click on the exe, it's going to install this like any other standard application. And once we get this installed, we should be able to log in and then be able to, get our OneDrive configured. Okay, it's almost done here. Okay, awesome. So now that I have this installed, I'm going to just go ahead and click the little icon here on the right. And usually it'll pop open a dialog box. I'm actually surprised this one did not. So you just click sign in and sign in with your O365 credentials. So Clardo at O365.house for me. And with those O365 credentials, so I did not get prompted for a password. I'm gonna just go ahead and take the default location. Basically, what it puts, where it tries to store it is in the users folder for your current profile, and then it's just going to add the name OneDrive. So now I'm gonna just say use this location, and now I'm all synced up, and it takes me through this tutorial. So if you don't see this tutorial, one of the things I did notice, because I actually had the older version of the client installed, but during prepping for this video, I went through and had to install the latest version. And the old version, you don't see this dialog where it actually speaks to the on-demand feature and capability and how you can determine it. And it kind of gives you this little startup tutorial. So in the old one, you're not going to see that. So if you don't see that, that's a good indicator that you're not working with the latest and greatest. Okay, so now I'm all connected here. And it's going to take me to my OneDrive folder. Because I've been playing around with this, I've already had files in the cloud, and that's what this on-demand feature allows you to do. So you have the status column, and if you have an open cloud versus a green check mark, that means that this folder and everything within it is in the cloud, is stored in the cloud, but it's not local to this PC. Now I can browse through here. So here you can see I can come in here. Let me just change to detail view, and you can actually see these files, right? And you'll be able to browse your entire OneDrive. I'm actually going to get connected to another tenant here shortly, and I will show you a tenant where we have, I think, like 3 terabytes of data, mostly video files. So you can browse through those and then just right click on the one that you want to bring local and say always keep on this device. And this is going to be critical because if you're about to jump on the airplane or go into an area where there is no Wi-Fi or internet available, you want to make sure that you have these files local, so that way you can interact with them offline. So anything that you have a cloud next to is not going to be available offline. So let's see, SharePoint 7. Let me see. I'm trying to find the light one that I can bring down here locally. So let me just right click, and you can do this at the folder level. So always keep on this device at the folder level, and then you will see the sync icon letting you know that it's starting to sync this up, which is a really cool feature. And just, you kind of get a sense of what's going on. So obviously you want, just like the Netflix download or the Amazon Video app download where you download it locally, you just want to make sure that you have that green check mark before you disconnect, and that will ensure that you have these files available offline. So once you do that, you have it available offline, but again, it's just one of those things where it's a really cool feature that allows you to interact with a ton of data without bringing everything locally. So now once we have these available offline, I can go, or even online. So even if I go to, I was going to show you the sharing capability. So even if I go to this video here, which I did not bring down locally, I can right click on here and click share. And now I can share this out, which is a really, really cool feature. So you don't have to pop into the browser view in order to share a file that you don't have locally downloaded to you, to your local device. You can actually share this even though the file still lives in the cloud. So I can just come here and share this to, let's say, dclark22@HeroWebs or 23@HeroWebs.com. And this is going to be outside of my organization, and then here I can say, here is the video I was talking about. And because this is a video file, I'm not too concerned with the editing capability, but if you click, let's say for example, if this was a Word document or an Excel file or any other document you don't want the user to edit or modify, you can have this you can uncheck allow editing unchecked. And this will allow you to check to anyone they'll be able to view that file without modifying it. Now, you have several capabilities without getting to too much detail within the sharing capabilities. But if you specify a specific person or specific people, you can put in the email address, share it off to them, and they will be forced to authenticate because there's, the tenant has to understand who's actually requesting it. So they will have their email address and they will have to authenticate within O365, and then they will only get access to your file. And that way you can better manage access. For that, because, everyone must have a Microsoft account when interacting with O365. They haven't opened it up to where you can use your Gmail address or your Facebook credentials or your Twitter credentials or any of the other social authentication providers that we're kind of used to in other applications. This becomes such a hurdle for some people to get past. What I would do is, depending on what it is, I would share with anyone and then make this read only and then copy the link here and then just pop out into an email, paste that link, and then add more commentary to that email that way. The only thing about that piece, they will be able to view that file without having to authenticate, which is good. It's a more seamless experience with that. But you kind of open yourself up to sharing the link, and then that person sharing that link, and that person sharing the link, and then you kind of have this sprawl of this link being out to anyone who have access to that link would then have access to that file. So that's one of the things to consider when you're sharing out in that regard. So another thing I like is to add files to your OneDrive. It's really just a simple drag and drop. So I'm going to go to, let's see, test data, for example. Here's some JSON files that have some test data. I can just drag and drop this over, and that would just upload that file to my OneDrive, and actually it will move it. So maybe drag and drop is not a good idea in that scenario. Or you can copy and paste or what have you, whatever you want to do. So it's actually very easy to take existing files and dump them into your OneDrive just by dragging and dropping or selecting all and copying and moving things over. So usually what we would do in an organization that's getting connected or migrating to OneDrive, because they probably have everything stored in their My Documents folder or their documents and photos and all this other good stuff, we would just take those folders and then just move them and then train the user to interact with those files using their OneDrive, which is pretty handy. All right, so let me show you this other piece here. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get connected to another tenant and show you to where I can have two OneDrive instances syncing on my device at the same time. Like you don't have to have a one-to-one, but for some users, if you're not careful, once I bring in this other tenant, you just have to be careful on not mixing and matching the files, right? So this other one I want to bring down is actually related to my church, and we use Office 365 at my church to manage video files. So let me sign out of here. And because we use it to manage video files, because we tape different programs or events at the church, it becomes a very large gallery of files, or repository of files. But it's very, very convenient because we have a media department and we have people working on different aspects of the video, and some of them just want the audio version, some want the video version, and all this other good stuff. So what we would do is use OneDrive for Business to centralize all of that data and then share out the folder to where folks can get access to those files. Okay, so here's my church tenant, and here's the OneDrive associated with this files. And if you just browse through this quickly, the DAP sermons have sermons from every, I think we average probably 8 services a month. So the current month all the way back to January 2017. So a tremendous amount of data. I think it's like 2.4 terabytes of data so far. So what I'm going to do, I want to sync this. So I just go to this OneDrive and hit sync. And then it's going to prompt me to open the client. And then as soon as I open the client, I get embedded with my email address. And here, because I'm not logged in with this email, it's prompting me for the password. So I need to authenticate here. And this is going to bring it down. And again, it's confirming the location, and I'm fine with the default location. And then I get to the tutorial window and just say open up my folder. Now, a couple of the steps are different here in regard to the old sync client and this new client that has the on-demand feature embedded within it. With the old sync client, you have to specify which folders you want to bring down and modify and things like that. That's one of the registrations or login capabilities that you have. But with this on-demand feature client, it just takes you right into the action. But you still can go in here and modify, because there's certain instances where from your local device, you don't want to see like the audio, the sermons, and all the other stuff. So in my case, I just want to see the DAP sermons, which have all the video files embedded in it. And these files are humongous, right? So if I go to properties, this one file alone is like 3.4 gigabytes. And then if you want to see the total space, you just go to properties and look at, so we have 1.85 terabytes, so closer to 2. But here I can modify my sync client for, and this is going to be a little bit confusing because I have to be careful which one I'm modifying. But luckily enough for me, I have the tenant name right under the OneDrive title, so it's easy for me to identify. For Software Innovations, which is my church tenant, this is where I want to modify the sync settings. So if I go into settings here and choose folders, this is where I can specify which one of the folders from the cloud I want to bring locally to this device, which is really nice. And as soon as I deselect those, as you can see, it will take away all the other files and only leave the one that I'm interested in. But it still did not download everything, which is a good thing, because there's a ton of data here, and I do not want everything to be downloaded. So if I do want this particular folder, I can right click it and say always keep on this device, and at the folder level and everything within it, even if it's nested folders, is going to bring down the entire structure, which is very handy and allow me to interact with it. Now, the way that we're set up at the church, so this is the repository of all the sermons, and everyone in the media department has an instance of this on their local device, and some of them are using Macs, some of them are using PCs, and in some cases we actually have people working on them with a workspace in the cloud, and that's where we get to the Amazon Workspace. So if I click on the Amazon Workspace and I come in here and log in, and then once I get logged in, I'll tell you a few benefits of why you want to do something very similar to this, especially with dealing with media files. So if you're a big production company or media company, or have a ton of videos within your organization that you're interacting with, this is a very, very handy tool. So here I'm on my Amazon Media Workspace, and it looks like I remote desktop into it, but this is actually a workstation that's actually stored in the cloud. And the key benefit to having a workstation in the cloud is this guy here. So once I go to fast.com, you can see that my download speed is 240 MIPS. So I've seen this jump all the way up to like 700. And with this type of speed, it just makes working with those high-level files or heavy files that much easier to tolerate. And you're not eating up your local bandwidth just to download 3 gigs of a file that's 3 gig or terabytes of data, so on and so forth. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go into this DAP sermons. Let's go into 2018 06. So I'm gonna go here, create a folder, and just call this sample 123, and then hit enter. And now, if I pop over to my local, look at that same folder, 2018. What was it? 2018 26. And sample 123 is right there. And you can tell that, obviously if this was a much heavier file, that transition would take a little bit of time, but all you're doing is just monitoring the icons. Because as you saw, when I created the folder, I got the sync icon, and then once I got the green check mark, that means it was in the cloud. And once I come here, I can just make this available offline or local to this device. So now what I have is access to this file, and sharing information in a two-way fashion is that much easy or simplistic. So now let me get out of here, pop open this, and then that file that I created local on my local PC 1234 text is easily available here. And now anyone else who has this OneDrive client synced up, they're able to see that file. So even from a church perspective, this becomes very critical, especially from our marketing department, to where, oh, here's the latest logo, here's the latest brochure that we're doing this campaign, here's the, what have you, right? The MP4 or the MP3 from this past sermon. And then, we have a social media team. They can take that, slice and dice it, get snippets, share those out, do their social media campaign, and so on and so forth. And all of that's possible with the OneDrive. And if you have your phone, then you have all of this information available on your phone, and you can listen to it and all this other good stuff. So again, it's just the power of, in most Microsoft professionals may not be able to share this, but once you start taking bits and pieces of different cloud solutions, you can come up with a very, very powerful solution, and the Microsoft OneDrive Sync Client is right in the middle of that. All right, so this is a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but again, that's just the power of the on-demand, how you can sync across multiple devices, many devices. And so I urge you to go out there and look at the O365 roadmap. There's some really, really cool things that are coming up. If you go to the O365 roadmap, filter by OneDrive, and that would just drop you into a lot of things that are in development, are done and currently rolling out. And some of these features, again, when you're looking at your tenant, make sure your tenant profile is set to the latest release. I forget the name of it, but there's like 3 of them to where it's the latest release to where you get the latest and greatest first, or you can specify a user to get the latest release, or you can say get a standard release, meaning that only pump these new features and capabilities once they've been vetted out and flagged as GA, which is general availability, and start rolling out that way. But I think out of all, just peruse this so that way you can kind of get a sense of some of the cool things that are coming. But the one thing that I'm finding very interesting that I'm kind of waiting on is the known folders feature. Where is it? Here it is, known folders. And this is supposed to allow you to sync up automatically your documents, desktop, pictures, and those folders, so that way anything that, because naturally with Windows 10 you're going to gravitate to those folders because that's where everything is, and that's how we're used to working. So and again, that's the discipline that we have with the training, is that once we activate this for organization and for all their clients, what the training is that, now when you save something on your C drive, make sure that you're moving it to your OneDrive so it's automatically synced up. But with this feature, they can continue using their My Documents folder, continue creating those shortcuts and folders on their desktop, or automatically dumping things in their pictures library, and it will automatically sync up to the cloud, which is the way it should work. Okay, so I'll see you in the comments section. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me. Again, sorry for some of the tongue twisting, and it's not as smooth as I wanted this video to be, but I think we got the great information out. All right, take care. See you.